Thank you, John and Helen. The value of spirituality is said to be linked to many important aspects of human functioning, i.e., spiritual people have positive relationships, high self-esteem, are optimistic, and have meaning and purpose in life. And some of its dictionary definitions are: spirituality involves the recognition of a feeling or sense or belief that there is something greater than ourselves. Another is: spirituality is a quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material and physical things. The last definition I'm going to share: spirituality is the state or quality of being dedicated to God, religion, or spiritual things and values, especially as contracted with material or temporal ones. So you see, some definitions are God-centered and others aren't. Now let's look at purpose. Simply put, it's defined as the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists, an intended end, aim, or goal. Purpose creates meaning, offers a sense of direction, and helps guide our paths, behavior, and our goals when applied to our lives. Now, let's meet my guest, Mr. Wole Olusola, lead pastor of Gracelife Church, Lagos, and a certified life coach, NLP practitioner, behavioral coach, speaker, and author. Prior to being a full-time pastor and lead coach and trainer at Pronaya Resources Limited, he had an 18-year investment banking career which saw him work for organizations like Central Bank of Nigeria, First Bank PLC, Guarantee Trust Bank, and BGL Asset Management Limited. Welcome, Wole.
Hi, good morning, Feran. I'm glad to be here this morning.
I am so happy that you're here with me. I really am. So, I have checked Google. Google has given me definitions. Now, I want you to give me your own definition. So I'm going to be asking you some of the same questions.
All right.
As to purpose versus spirituality. And of course, the first question is, to you, what is spirituality, and then what is purpose?
From my own perspective, spirituality is just that sense of being connected to a higher being. You know, deep down inside all of us, there's a vacuum that we try to fill, and we can't fill in our own power. So what fills that vacuum is that connection to that higher being. And when you discover what spirituality is, you get to a state where you find out that your life is more than you. Because every one of us was created for interconnectedness. And we might never be able to do that until we embrace spirituality, connection to a higher being, and then it flows out from us to other people.
I see. And purpose?
Purpose is basically the reason for which everyone was created. So I tell people when I talk about purpose, because it's one of my favorite topics, that every single one of us is a solution to an existing problem in this world. So that more or less tells us that there's no one in this world created without a purpose. God doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't do...
Hold on, I'm going to interrupt you there.
All right.
You said God doesn't make mistakes.
He doesn't make
But then
mistakes.
when you define spirituality, you said a higher being.
Yes.
Is there a difference?
No, there's no difference. The higher being I'm talking about is God. So,
are you certain?
I'm very certain, because I've been on this journey for quite a while. I will not want to share my encounter with God that led me to all this here because of time. But what gives me total confidence is not because I heard from someone. I have an experience. It's something I have had. It's something I have seen. It's something that my hands have handled. So, it's easy to doubt what somebody has told you. But it's very difficult to doubt what you have experienced. So the things I share are not just things I heard. They're not just things I read. They are things I have personally experienced to make me know and come to that conclusion that God is real.
And God is the higher being.
Yes, it's that higher being.
So I'll then take you back to your definition of purpose in
All right.
relation to
All right.
God.
So, like I was saying, every one of us is a solution to an existing problem. So, every one of us was created deliberately and intentionally to solve a problem in this world. So, the fact that you have not yet discovered purpose, your reason for being here, does not mean you don't have one. Because I'm not an experiment. You are not an experiment. We were created intentionally to solve problems. So you find a situation that the fact that you have a pen and you are not using that pen to write does not mean the purpose of the pen is not for writing. So that's the same way it is for everyone. So we are here on assignment, and that assignment is to solve an existing problem. So you can imagine what would have happened if Thomas Edison had not discovered lights. Someone would have eventually done it, but it would have set back the whole world many years. So when people don't discover the reason why they are created, it leads to a lot of problems. And that's why Dr. Miles Monroe of blessed memory always says that the richest place on the earth is not the banks, it's not the gold mines, but it's the cemetery. Because the cemetery is where lots of things that people ought to have done with their lives but didn't do, they take it there. So unwritten books or unwritten songs or things that would have invented that were never invented, all because people took them to the grave without ever discovering it. Now, very interestingly, I believe strongly in the afterlife. And the truth is this: all these solutions that God has given us will be totally useless in the afterlife. They are meant to be used there. So every time I see an armed robber die, and everybody's applauding that an armed robber has been killed, I feel somehow, because I see another wasted opportunity to have influenced humanity. Because definitely nobody was created to be an armed robber. So if you find someone that is involved in a vice, that's a waste of purpose. And when somebody veers off the line of his purpose, it deprives the people he has been sent to of the solution is meant to be to them.
So you've said some really succinct things there, but let me connect it back to spirituality. Twofold. What is the connection between spirituality and purpose? And can you be non-spiritual and fulfill purpose? Or does non-spirituality even exist? So I've kind of asked 3 questions in one.
All right. So the first one is this, or the connection between spirituality and purpose. I started by defining spirituality as the connection to God, the higher being. Then when you get that connection, it flows back to you and it flows towards human beings. It flows towards other people. And your purpose in this world is not for you. Your purpose is for humanity. Your purpose is to touch lives, whichever way God says you should do it. So my own purpose, for example, is to help people get back up when they have suffered a setback. And it's based on my own experiences and things that never left me when I was a child. As a matter of fact, I was born a stammerer. And I was born with chronic shyness. I was born as a stammerer, and it was always difficult to face people. But I noticed something. When I was young, every time I was alone and I thought about my life, the only thing I could see myself doing was talking to large crowds of people. The only thing I could see myself doing was motivating people, was encouraging them about life. But it looked so far-fetched. How would a stammerer be doing stuff like that? How would someone who was shy be doing stuff like that? But that now makes us to know that your purpose is bigger than you. Your purpose is not something you can fulfill in your own power. So it's that spirituality, connection to God, that leads into purpose. And then when you discover purpose, purpose is linked to your potential. Your potential is the ability to do what you've been sent to do. So when you discover your purpose, the potential there is released, and then you begin to make a difference in people's lives. I'll tell you with all sense of humility and responsibility that no matter how down a person is, if I spend 60 minutes with that person that person will become encouraged to take on life and become much better than what they are going through.
Because you've discovered your purpose.
Yes, and I've not just discovered it, it gives me joy. It makes adrenaline flow towards me every time I have an opportunity to do what I've been sent to do. Just like I'm doing now.
I have a question, but I'm not going to ask it. So, can you be non-spiritual and still fulfill purpose?
To a very large extent, yes. Because I've seen a lot of people that are non-spiritual, but one way or the other, they are working in purpose, enjoying what they are doing, and they are impacting lives. Because, there are so many ways. There's not just one way to discover your purpose. There are so many ways. So one way or the other, those people find the problems that we are created to solve. They are not spiritual. However, they are making a difference. But the whole essence of everything eventually is to lead to a level of spirituality, especially because there's an afterlife. So no matter how long we live here, the most important thing is this: it's that afterlife.
But haven't you just contradicted yourself? Because you started off by defining spirituality as you had said that spirituality is the connection to a higher purpose,
to
a higher being.
To a higher being, God.
Yeah, God.
Which you made me call God.
Okay, so, and then you said purpose is to fulfill purpose, you have to connect to that higher being. So upwards connection and then lateral connection. Yeah, once you get from upwards.
Yeah, but so inside every one of us, whether we are conscious of it or not, there's that connection to God.
So that means even the people who you're saying are not spiritual are actually spiritual, but they may not realize it.
Yes, they may not realize it. So it's not really something. So, there's a difference between grasping someone who has hair on his head and another difference between trying to grasp a bald-headed man like me with a lot of cream on his head. So you can feel my head, but you find out that there's no grip. You understand? So the people that we would call non-spiritual, there's that connection inside them.
To something.
But they are not aware, and there's also no mastery. It's not something that they can really control. It's not something that they are really deliberate about. But for someone like me, I'm very aware of that connection. And I'm also very aware that there's a relationship between myself and this higher being. My life has been through so many things. So most of the things I talk about, they are based on things I read and which I've also had experiences about. So it's difficult for me to doubt them.
I see. So, okay, I introduced you as lead pastor, yeah? Interestingly enough, I asked the question recently, why do we have a lot more pastors come to the forefront than we have imams? But that's a different conversation entirely.
Right.
My question is this, not as a pastor, but as a man who is spiritual, yeah? What is the difference between religion and spirituality?
Like I told you, spirituality is the connection to God. But interestingly, religion is simply a set of rules, a set of ideologies, a set of stuffs that are meant to lead us to God. But I'll tell you, in most cases, it doesn't lead us to God. You know why? Because you are living by a set of rules, but there's no personal relationship. You don't know who you are trying to relate with. Because a lot of us feel that if I do this, if I do that, if I do this, if I don't do this, if I don't do that, I'll be closer to God. But it doesn't lead to God. So I call religion a kind of maze, a kind of labyrinth, where you just keep going round and round in circles without ever finding God. So at the end of the day, religion only leads into bondage. There's a form of godliness, but there's no power inside it because there's no connection to God. So I've been there. I've been religious in the past. But you see, at the end of the day, you are going to end up being burned out. You are going to end up being frustrated. You are going to end up being spiritually tired and famished because it's not the real thing. It's not the real thing. It looks like the real thing, but it's not the real thing. So I've been there. So spirituality is that direct connection, while religion is something that gives you an idea of it, but it's not it. And in most cases, when you look at religious people, they are focused on what they must do for God. But they are not focused on, they are trying to take it from down up, but not knowing that it must come from up to down before it starts to evolve that way. And then most of their stuffs are based on what one man has said, instead of going directly to God themselves. So that's why I don't teach religion. I teach that direct relationship with God. And I don't try to mold people to be like me, because that would be totally wasting their potential.
I'm tapping my foot because I'm like, okay, I hear you. You've broken some tables, but again, I introduced you as lead pastor, Graceland Church, Lagos. Gracelife Church, Lagos. Pastor is in the Bible.
Yes.
Bible is a Christian book.
Christian book.
Yeah? Church is in the Bible. Church is seen as where Christians gather to worship. Christianity is a religion.
Christianity is defined as a religion. However, the first place people were called Christians, according to the Bible in Acts 11, was in Antioch. And why did they call them Christians? Because you see, if you don't know the why of a thing, you'll get it totally wrong. Why were they called Christians? It simply means they were Christ-like. They behaved like Christ. They spoke like Christ. They thought like Christ. As a Christian, I don't need to tell people I'm a Christian. I don't need to. If I tell people I'm a Christian, if not for official purpose, then something is wrong. They ought to see it in me. So you see, the best evangelism is not in sharing tracts. The best form of evangelism is not in telling people, it's your lifestyle. Anybody can preach a good sermon behind a pulpit for 45 minutes a week. But you see, the best pulpit is our lifestyle. That's where people see Christ. So when you look at it, Christianity is not a religion. It's a way of life. In thoughts, in deed, in everything, Christ must be seen. So that's what Christianity is about. Now, you see, when you are related with Christ, when you look at the word church in Greek is called ecclesia. And when you look at ecclesia from a Greek perspective, it talks about, it's a political language. It talks about the Senate, where people used to go weekly to have discussions. So Christianity is not really about people gathering every Sunday to listen to one pastor. It's about having conversations about Christ that will eventually lead to God. And that's what we try to do. It's not about me. It's bigger than me. It's centered around Christ. So that's why it cannot be a religion. Although for official purposes, for descriptions, we call it a religion, but Christianity is much more than a religion. It's a way of life.
Okay, I'm like, I wish I could have this conversation forever, because but I can't, because we're running out of time. So wow. I want to ask you one last question. If I were to ask you my very first question again, what is spirituality? What is purpose? 1, would your answer be the same? 2, can you give us 3 to 5 practical steps as to how to fulfill purpose whilst also connecting with our spirituality?
So 24/7, my answers will be the same. I might get to know it better. However, the underlying factor is that those answers will remain the same. That spirituality is that connection to God beyond myself. And purpose is finding the problem we have been created to solve. And in fulfilling purpose, there are different ways. Number 1, for each one of us, right from when we started growing up, there are pictures that have never left us. Pictures of what we see ourselves doing when we grow up. When you are alone, when you are talking to people, those pictures keep coming. That was how I discovered my own purpose, because I always saw myself encouraging people, lifting them up. So it was easy for me to know the problem I had been created to solve. Another way is what people jokingly call you. So if you are someone that they call a talk...
Are you giving us 3 to 5 steps now?
Yeah.
What you're doing?
No, okay. So the first step I've discovered, I've said the first step, number one step, is those pictures that have never left you. Then number 2 way, what people jokingly or sarcastically call you. So if you are a talkative, he talks too much, it's a pointer to the fact that your purpose is linked to your mouth. So God is going to do it in such a way that you use your mouth to lift people up. Then the number 3 way is to directly ask God. Is the manufacturer. We are the products. And no manufacturer creates a product to fail. It's totally impossible. No manufacturer creates a product to fail. So you can directly ask him. And I've had instances of people directly asking God that, why am I here? What problem was I created to solve? And I can tell you, he always answers, because he's eager for us to ask than we are even eager to ask, because the manufacturer is not satisfied until he sees the product doing what it has been called to do. So the fact that a pen can open a tin of milk does not make it a tin cutter. You understand? It doesn't make it a tin cutter. So those 3 steps, and then when you go to those 3 steps and you discover the why, then you must also polish that gift. You know, you must add training, you must add skillfulness to it, and then finally you begin to work in the area of that purpose. You begin to do it, you begin to make a difference to lives until you get to that stage where people call you Wole Olusola and they say the pastor or the coach, because there's a convergence. Everything about you has converged into one, and people now only know you by one adjective.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you've broken tables. It's been amazing, and it's been extremely insightful. We can have these conversations forever. So thank you so much for coming.
Welcome.
It really has been an honor. I can't wait to have more conversations with you, because you will help me to discover my purpose. So thank you so much.
I'll be very much willing to do that. And I don't break tables. I only say
what is true.
Yeah, what is true. If
Fair enough.
It ends up breaking tables,
so be it.
So be it. Fair
enough. And on that note, we will be wrapping up the show. This has been super enlightening. Please watch it again and again and again. And let's begin to understand spirituality versus purpose. And let's all try and make sure we all fulfill purpose. Thank you so much for watching. Stay with us for a few more seconds while John, Helen, and myself wrap up the show. Thank you.